Welcome, everyone, to the lineup. It is a new podcast presented by Dugout Creative. My name is The Holy Grail. I will be your host, and this show will be going and bringing on a few guests during every episode. We're going to get to know them a little better, talk about the content that they make, and hopefully we'll get some good information out there for you guys to get to know them a little better. And maybe if you're a content creator, then you guys can have some good information to help you guys out along the way. But today I am joined by two of my favorite people, Mr. Scan and Ansel Armstrong.
Yes, sir.
And they're not their labels under their faces are not exactly correct.
Wait a minute. I wonder whose fault that is.
It's your boy Scan here.
I don't know who you're talking about.
They look a little different today, but I still love them. But no, I figured we'd get these two for the first episode because we've done a lot together, and I know this one will be a great way to start it off. So we'll just do some brief introductions for those that may not know who these two are, and we'll start with Ansel Armstrong, my man Ant. So. Where are you from? What kind of content do you make, and how did you end up where you are currently right now?
So obviously, Ants from the heart of Texas, born and raised, best state in the country. Everybody knows that much. I really started in my MLB The Show journey, as both of y'all know, really started attacking kind of like the market and the sub side of things. I had originally started creating content for FPS games. When I first started streaming, I spent about a year and a half streaming Battlefield exclusively. And we The Show 20 came out, and I was like, I'll give it a whirl. Started making stub content. One thing led to the next, had a couple of things pop off, and I was like, this is actually, I think I maybe, finally found something that I'm decent at. And then over the last year, one thing I've been really proud of is, really branding out from that and expanding who I am as a creator and the things that I do, to be less of a niche and more of a general overall creator.
Yeah, what's one thing you learned this last year?
Ooh, one thing I learned this last year. You definitely have to be able to balance the highs and the low, especially with a game like MLB The Show where it's so seasonal. You have to balance. You can't let the highs get you too high because then it can be easy to almost back off a little bit. You know what I mean? It's to be like, everything's going great right now. I can just kind of cruise and take it easy. And you can't let the lows get too low and discourage you too much from a high that is possibly right around the corner. Hopefully, when April 1st coming around.
Very soon.
Everything.
Yep.
We're almost through the dark winter. But it was different this year because last winter I just wasn't spending as much time on content in general just because I was still working full time. And so if I wasn't streaming as much, I wasn't put on YouTube, I was like, oh yeah, of course, my content wasn't doing as well. And I know we had some talks leading up to the launch of this year of I don't know. I don't even know what it's going to look like. And then launch comes around and everything goes how it does. But it's easy, especially in this time of the year, to look at things and be discouraged, which is difficult. It's a big side of content creation that a lot of people don't recognize, unless you've been in that spot.
No, absolutely. It can weigh on you heavily. 100%. But we'll get into that and a lot more in just a bit. But Ans, thank you for coming on. And it had to be this way, right?
Yeah, it
had to be
back
this
to
way.
The roots.
Yeah, back to the roots, baby.
What was it? Probably a year and a half ago would have been the first time we all got together for the Stream Deck.
Yeah.
Wild.
Pretty much.
That's wild.
Crazy how much things have changed, man. And so hopefully this new show will just, continue, our legacy with everything. And, I'm expecting nothing but great things. But I wanted to ask the same about my man Scan. Kind of the same question, just as a brief introduction. I know most of you guys tuning in know who Scan is, but for those that don't, kind of the same questions. Where are you from? What kind of content do you make? And how do you end up where you are right now?
Yeah, so I'm from upstate New York. I've been in New York basically my entire life. I haven't even been playing MLB The Show forever, but only got into it again around MLB The Show 19 or so. And I've been trying to be a content creator in some sense since I was literally in high school. I have old cringy YouTube videos of me trying to get into video game YouTube Didn't do well, but I did back then. And I've been very on and off with
Mhm.
it over time because, you can't really pursue something like this all the time like that. And then once I was in college, going through my undergrad degree, I did streaming and stuff on the side, and I was like having a lot of fun with it. I realized I started to be pretty solid at it. And just in general, I took a jump in. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go and do more content creating. I'm really enjoying this on the side. And long story short, over the last 2 years, basically, gone from being a student finishing my undergrad degree and starting grad school to now hopping in full time as a content creator, doing YouTube and all of that, doing tips based content, MLB the show, but all together, just trying to do as much as possible in regards to baseball. And it's been an absolute blast.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you're touching on that last part of just baseball. It's kind of shifted from not only MLB the show content for you, but you're looking at it at a wider scope these days. So man, with all like the blitzball stuff and everything like that, like it's just the possibilities. You really can't just box yourself into one thing because you never know what else you could be good at.
I've started to one of the big things this last year I've recognized is just how much fun I've had doing things other than just MLB the show content. From like
Hmm.
vlogs to the blitzball to other stuff where I just like go down and like I try to have fun with editing. I enjoy a lot of it. So with how it goes with content creating, you want to funnel your passions into the things you create content for. And I'm starting to
Hmm.
recognize it's more than just MLB the show in video games. It's a lot more than that, and I'm excited to see where the future holds with all of it.
Absolutely, and I am too, man. I'm super pumped for you, dude. Um, and so now that we've done our introductions, that we've properly met each other, for the first time, right? So, this is something that I really wanted to talk about with you two because not only have you guys been doing content for a while, but it's been basically a full game cycle of MLB the show where you guys are creating content full time. And when I say full time, it means that is your day job. You don't have work, you don't have school. You are focusing, a lot of your effort and your time into making this thing work, however you may see it. And a lot of the time we talk about sacrifices, we have to sacrifice in order to make this thing work. And, you sacrifice it in anything you do. But maybe when you had work or you had school, a lot of people sacrifice the time where they might have to sleep, and then that's just devoted to content. But I want to ask you guys, what has been kind of the sacrifices that you guys have had to make now that you have more time to dedicate to content creating? What has kind of shifted in that sort of sacrifice, if there is any?
Hmm.
I'll start with you, Ants.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of sacrifices you make. I mean, it's not possible to do this without having those sacrifices. I remember when I was first starting out, and I was still working full time, and I was getting my master's at that point as well. I would get some my schoolwork done like in the morning during the day up at my office, then work for the full day. And at the time, I was working student events for a university, so I would be up there working event until like 9, 10 p.m. And I'd come home and stream until like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and like wake up at 8 the next morning and do that all over again. So when you do that for like 7 days in a week, then you're making the sacrifice of I'm not working out as much, probably not eating as healthy as you'd like to, and definitely
Mhm.
not like talking, communicating, or seeing with your friends, as much. I
Mhm.
think that is a massive one as well because you put so
Mhm.
much time into this. It's like any free moment I'd have, it'd be like, oh, do I hang out with my friends or do I like stream for the first time in like 3 days? And when you first start to see that little bit of success there, especially when it's something that you've already put a lot of time into and you've already feel like you're so dedicated to and involved in, it's like, okay, I have this little bit of success. I have this window of opportunity. Like, you don't want to lose that. That was
Mhm.
basically kind of where I was last year. I was like, okay, this is starting to have some sense of some momentum. Like, I don't want to lose that. So it's basically putting everything else to the side besides that. And then now that I'm full time with it. Definitely, you open up some time here and there, but it's crazy how immediately that gets filled in with something else. Whether it's,
Mhm.
um, I know we're gonna get into this a little bit more, but like starting a company, or even just part of this with Dugout Creative. I mean, all the cool events and things we're doing, like being this right here. Probably not something I could have done before I was full time, but it's just one of those things that fills in the gaps. Spending
Mhm.
time to increase your quality, putting out more and more content than you ever could have before. It's basically like a never ending cycle of there's always something you're not able to do that with more time you would be able to do. So as you gain more time from taking stuff off your plate, doing this or that, it's just like instantly there's something else up there to replace it and focus on.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff right there. I want to touch on one thing that you said, and it was
Hmm.
there was a window of opportunity where you really felt like you had to
Yeah.
go hard. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people may not recognize that opportunity or not know what that opportunity is. So for you, what did that opportunity look like? And what kind of told you, okay, now I need to really go hard now. I need to make this really worth it, you know?
Definitely. I mean, I definitely got somewhat lucky in this regard because my window of opportunity was probably during the peak of COVID in 2020. So it wasn't as if I had all sorts of million things going on. I was, most of us were at home. I was working from home. I was pretty much at home all day, just as the rest of us. So it made it a lot easier to continue to just go all in on it. But I think one of the big things for me was, so I had been streaming for like a year and a half at that time and hadn't really done anything on YouTube. I kind of started to put some focus there and got a little bit of traction. I remember my very first stub video. I put it on YouTube. I woke up the next morning and I had like 100 views, and I was like at my parents' house, and I was like, "Yo, this video got 100 views! Like what? Like that's so insane!" And then that continued to grow, and I was like, "Oh, like there's actually like momentum here on YouTube. Like all of a sudden, I'm a YouTube partner, and my average viewership on Twitch is increasing. Like, oh, this is actually there's a lot of positive things happening right here." And I think that was kind of the main thing that kind of triggered it in my mind when I was seeing growth in multiple assets. It wasn't just like a good week. It wasn't a good couple days. It wasn't that my sub count on Twitch hit a certain level, but it was like a consistent month over month trend words up. That was like, oh, this is a very large sample size of positive momentum of a really good thing happening here.
Absolutely. And me and Scan, that's how we found you, man. We saw that video, man. And rest is history. Scan, I want to
Yep.
ask that same question to you. Like, what was that moment for you? Because your YouTube, I think you said went from 1.5K to now you're at 15K or something crazy like that over this last year. So what was kind of that for you, that
Mhm.
wake up moment where, I really got to go hard, and I got to focus on this thing.
Good question. I think for me, it's going to be different than a lot of people. A lot of people have that journey that gets them going. And for me, it was a little different. I had always enjoyed streaming and I had done that a lot. And, my streams had always gradually grown bit by bit. And Dave, you remember this period. There was a point last year prior to MLB The Show 21 where my channel was rolling. I started to get momentum with the views. I had a couple YouTube videos I experimented with that did okay. And then just whoosh, I stopped, took a break, all that stuff with the slow point of the game. And for me, after that period had gone down, I reflected back on it and I recognized that was a window for me.
Hmm.
I started to roll out YouTube and TikTok and all the other content. It started getting momentum, and right as it did, I just stopped because of partially school, but also because of MLB The Show kind of being stagnant at that latter point in the year. And when I was looking back at it, and I felt like I lost that momentum, I reflected on it. I was like, that was my window right there. That was my window of
Hmm.
momentum, and that's when I was right at like a turning point with school, and I basically had a decision to make. Do I jump in this full time, put that time in that I wish I did before, or do I go out and just pursue what I was doing with the teaching? Decided to jump in because I saw that window and I had it before, and I believed I could get there again. And rest is history. Once I recognized that, I tried to get back to that point by putting all the content out. And then start of the year happened and game dropped and then rest is history with that, with pounding out tip video after tip video, streaming nearly every day, the growth, the partner. With that, then you recognize like this is your window to really get in on this. When you see that momentum going your way with all the content you put out, because it's an accumulation of a lot of things, like Ant said, it's more than just your stream getting a following. It's an accumulation of a lot of things. You see a gradual growth everywhere. And that momentum is really the thing that pushes you forward. Because you recognize you're doing something right. So you want to keep on doing that thing right before you lose that opportunity again. That was, or at least for me, that was the case. I lost it once.
I think another thing with that is that it's also very, very difficult to recognize that momentum at the time. Like when things are going well, you're like, oh, this is going well. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. But like as that whatever you're doing kind of slowly starts to fade, because as everything kind of comes and goes, nothing is a pure consistency, straightforward trend up. It's very hard to recognize like real true momentum and how to fully capitalize on it in the moment. But it's super easy to look back. I can look back at what my year in 2020 and my year in 2021 and be like, man, there was this time and that time. Even though those were incredibly successful years for me, I can easily look back and find many moments where it's like, if I could have done this or that differently, or put more focus on this and that, like things could be in a much better and a different place right now.
Absolutely. And with how I look at it, it's you don't really see, like you mentioned, you don't see the momentum as it's happening. I feel like you just see these gradual incremental things going well, and it kind of just keeps going that way. As long as you're consistently putting at it, that momentum kind of is like, it just happens itself. It's not really forced. May see some increases in video views or streamer viewers and all that, but you don't really see it while you're in the moment. And the thing that drives you is just trying to get better bit by bit. And it seems like, at least for me, that in a lot of us, that's just the trend. You don't really notice it. You're just kind of caught up in the momentum.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can be so
absolutely.
easy to like see everything going well and enjoying that time, which is what we should. Like we should enjoy those high moments, but not recognize exactly either what's causing it or exactly how impactful like a certain moment and a certain piece of momentum can be. Like especially, we show 22 coming around. Now kind of like 2 years into it. I think me and Scan, both of us, we both have a very much more clear understanding of how impactful that first month to 2 months of the momentum built around that can be versus, any other previous year like headed into it. And
Have
that
you
just comes
guys
from like the experience of being there.
have you guys thought of any way that you'll be going about this next year differently in those sort of aspects when like things really get rolling? Because we all know, like you said earlier, like this is more of a down time, but we all know it'll pick up. So I know you guys have your plans, but is there anything you guys are going to change moving forward when this sort of momentum shifts and you're really feeling good? Have you thought about like anything that you would do differently this time around?
I think Ants and I could probably both vouch for this, and I know he kind of touched on it. I think our thing is diversifying. We
Hmm.
want to diversify
Yep.
more and more, because we found when we started and we started getting momentum, we had this niche of informational videos that we would put out. Ants with the stubs, me with gameplay
Yep.
tips. And when you're doing well, you stick to it because that's what does well and you enjoy doing that. But then you get to a point where you recognize maybe there's a limit on that. Maybe not everyone's going to be interested in the type of stuff that you do. So you want to try to find a way to broaden your audience. You want to try to touch up on more aspects of content than you may have just by doing that singular thing. So I think in terms of us, I think we share that commonality that we have such like an interesting niche of stuff. We want to
Yep.
diversify that and be more than just that, which is a big part of like establishing yourself as a good content creator.
Yep, exactly. Like I love making stub advice and stub tips, and that's always going to be something I do as long as I'm creating with show content. But it's about being more than that. And for
Mhm.
myself and Scan, I know both of us are much more than just like a niche informational creator. You know what I mean? And so it's about expanding into those roles and basically letting people know that, and the only way we
Mhm.
can do that is by reaching out and doing more content types, whether, blitzball, other things within MLB the show, other things within the baseball community. And you just have to go out and do it. Otherwise, nobody's ever going to know that. If all I ever did was put out stub videos, no one's ever going to see me as anything other than the stub guy. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Well, this kind of brings us to our next topic because another good way to reach out and diversify your content is by collaborating with other content creators, other people. And, sometimes those people can kind of push you along the way and kind of, help you recognize when, things may be good or things may be bad, when to switch things up. And, you guys have collaborated with a lot of people, not just in videos, but recently also in as a part of a business move for both you guys. So I want to ask Scan. He has recently, well, I don't know, it's been a few months now, it seems like, but he is now the creative director of Dugout Creative. And I just want to know how that came to be and kind of what you've learned along the way and kind of what this role means for you.
The thing I will say about this is that as doing this, I've recognized that there's a lot more to say just content creation and stuff than I had first thought it out to be. And that's probably been the most valuable lesson. Because I've always been someone who's operated by myself normally with my own content. I make my own videos, I edit them, I put all of it out myself. And I don't even do that much collaborative type videos for my type of content. But this made me recognize how much of a value there is in having a team and having multiple people and learning those skills of leading people to be their best selves. And the beauty of it, the number one gratifying thing is that we have a bunch of editors and we have the creators like all of us and so many people on board with this. It's like the rewarding part of it is we're getting the best out of everyone. We're all growing and improving together. And as I've recognized that, it's been wonderful. And in terms of how it came to be, basically obviously I've been involved with Dugout and such, and I am someone who is particularly, we'll say, a nerd in content creation. Like Dave's chuckling because he knows it's true. I'll sit here and I sit and watch videos about thumbnails and putting stuff out, and I study stuff because I find it so entertaining. So whenever I would talk to Jeremy, Dugout Boss Man, about stuff, I think he picked up on it. He was like, "Oh, well, if he wanted to he recognized he was doing a lot. He was doing a lot with the content stuff and all the other stuff he's managing, and he was like, we should get a creative director to pass some of that off to." And lo and behold, Mr. Scan was that person. And I've really enjoyed it. I think I've learned a lot about me, about just this type of environment, being with a team and all that. And it's been an incredible experience this last month. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, it seems like, you are definitely one of the people that would be a perfect fit for something like that because you see things on such a bigger scope, you really see from a bird's eye view how everything kind of goes into it. So what are kind of your visions for this next year as a creative director?
The thing is with all of this Dugout stuff, as you all see with this podcast and the DCCL, there are so many things going on being put together, and it's about executing it and doing all these things and touching in all different types of content that we do, from the blitzball to all of that. And I think the thing that's gonna be the most fun is getting everyone involved with it. This will be the first year with this Vegas event and all that. I think all of the people in the crew of the creators are going to be involved in things other than just the MLB The Show stuff together. We're going to have all this stuff that pushes everyone to be better because they're a part of this. And that's going to be the most fun part about it this next year, because it's getting bit closer as the days go on, and it's going to be incredible as this year goes on.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll talk about Vegas. We're not quite there yet, but man, can you guys believe it? Tomorrow night we'll all be meeting each other for the first time. Maybe
That's gonna be
not me
wild.
and you, Ants, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and it just goes to show, man, like, you grind it out, man, and you never give up with this whole content creator thing. Like you don't know how far it can go, man. It can go a lot farther than maybe you even think. So this is definitely a realization of that. And but love all of it, Scan. I can't wait to see what this year has in store for Dugout Creative and yourself included. And but I want to shift gears because Ants has kind of he has collaborated with some people in a little bit of a different aspect, and this was really interesting when I saw it. And basically, I don't want to tell your story, Ants, but basically you came together with a few editors and different people that make thumbnails, editors and stuff like that, and you decided to have everyone come together and make your business in impaired visuals. Is that correct?
Yep.
So I know you were part of getting that started and up and running. So maybe just if you could explain how that came together, what your role is and all that, and kind of what you learned through this process of making
Yeah.
this company.
So it kind of really came out of left field, kind of out of nowhere. Obviously, me and a Sinful and JoJo, the three of us that started it. I go way back with the two of them. I mean, JoJo's probably one of my best friends that I've been able to met through this whole journey. So one, I mean, the opportunity to work with your friends is always a great opportunity. And basically, JoJo is a great editor. A Simple is really good on the logistical side of things, but they needed somebody to help one, bring a creator's perspective to it, and then two, not necessarily be a face, but somebody who can just give that different perspective and vision from creators, know what creators would want, and just kind of always help to be pushing things and innovating forward. And I mean, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually have my master's in business. So like being in business and being involved with those type of things is something I've always been involved in, something I've always
Mhm.
had my toes in. It's something that like I kind of keep that close to my chest. I don't know why, but I just do. So when this opportunity came up, it was kind of like a no brainer fit for me.
Mhm.
Being able to work with two people that I know really well and get along with really well, and who I trust and whose vision I trust, and be able to come together to really provide a great service and a value that ended up being a no brainer move for myself. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about helping other creators. I mean, as well as anybody the struggle of maintaining working full time and trying to pump out content at a consistent basis that is
Mhm.
quality. And there's a lot
Yep.
of other people who have that struggle, or just like the struggle of putting out as much quality content as they want. And so, I mean, it's all about trying to help that. And one of the coolest things for me so far is being able to see a perspective of all that aspects outside of MLB the show. Because
Mhm.
obviously, I mean, we all kind of live, not necessarily live within this bubble, but it is a bubble that we know very well, and obviously something we're all trying to expand out to. We actually, I don't know exactly how we lucked into this. We have a ton of people in the Roblox community for whatever
Yeah.
reason. We have like 5 people that we added in the Roblox community, and to see some of these guys that have like 300, 400,000 subscribers, and see the attention to detail that they have and the approach that they have to their content, it really like changes the way that you view content entirely. After like getting to sit and talk with these guys who are like mega creators,
Mhm.
doing these huge sponsorships and huge videos, and like some of these guys have every video detailed down to every 10 seconds. For like a 10-minute video, every 10 seconds is detailed down exactly what they're wanting. So that's been one of the most really interesting and the best parts for me is kind of seeing things from a different perspective as a creator that I may not have seen otherwise. That so far has been one of the coolest aspects for me. Just getting that experience and kind of getting that exposure to a different side of things that is then impacting the way that I view my own content and how I create that.
Can you give us one thing that you learned from that, from like sitting down and talking with these Roblox guys that have these big communities, and like something that you learn from them that you will be taking in to your videos
Yeah.
moving
So one
forward?
thing I've been working on testing recently, we have this one of our creators, he's at 250, 300,000 subs in the Roblox community. And he does not have a video that is under 8 minutes or over 9 minutes. Every single one is
Hmm.
8 to 9. And when he submits a video to be edited, he has every second broken down. He says from 0 to 15 seconds, this happens. From 15 seconds to 30 seconds, this is what happens in the video. So just that attention to detail has really changed my perspective of how I view, especially like dead time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I watch like some of my old videos, I was like, bro, there's so much like dead time and downtime happening here where like the quality could be upped and the flow of this could be so much better. And again, it's one of those things, and this happened. I was actually just the other day looking back at like my old content, like my old thumbnails, and I remember I was like, dude, these thumbnails were so sick. And I look at them now, I'm like, that is the ugliest thing I've ever created in my entire life. What was I doing? And it's just like a simple fact of you don't know any different. Like your barometer
Mhm.
when you're starting out is low because you just don't anything is crazy. So being able to see this other perspective and how much detail is put into it to reduce all the dead time, to keep everything condensed, to keep the flow of it so continuous has really shifted my approach and how I view a lot of my own content in that nature. Same with like I've been trying out a new thumbnail style that a lot of those
Mhm.
people use as well. And just like a really simplistic, colorful, bright approach that kind of gets those eye popping catches going on.
Yeah, I'm. It's funny that you mentioned that, answers. I learned the exact same lesson with stuff, maybe in a different avenue. But it was funny because JoJo and I were in Discord working on your intro, thinking about those elements. One night we were just chatting. He was ending his
Yep.
intro, your intro, and I was like, "Do this, do this, do this." And it's funny because like
Mhm.
that's a big thing that like when you're first starting, you're just like, cut, cut, cut. You do the
Right.
basics, and then
Yep.
you learn over time. Like, why is this thing said? It doesn't add anything.
Yep.
Take it out. That there's a flow to a video. It's like an art piece. You have to think
Yes.
about the viewer perspective and them
Mhm.
watching it and being, am I going to sit here and watch this? It's like they're waiting to be like to click out, and you got to do your best to keep them wanting to watch it. And it's like an art doing that. Funny enough, it's
Yep.
weird describing it, but that's what it is.
Another thing on that aspect as well is that, especially on the editing front, there is a large difference between like an edit that is like technically good. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it has transitions and it's flashy and it has all these cool things. But if it doesn't like properly have flow or tell a story, it's just not going to be a video that does what you want it to do.
Mhm.
And so the difference between that is so massive. Like you can have an editor that probably doesn't have as much skill in the sense of like effects and all that stuff, but if they can properly have a video flow and tell a story with it, they're probably going to have videos that perform better 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's really good advice right there. 100%. And I just I'm curious, Ants, do you have any goals for this next year in regards to impaired visuals? Have you guys sat down and banged out any goals that you want to do, anything you want to accomplish in specific, or is it just like, get as many people on board as possible and improve as much as you can as editors and trying to provide the best service possible?
Yeah, I mean, let's see, what is today? The 20th. So 4 days is our like first month and we've already
Oh
surpassed
wow.
like any thoughts we could have had in the
Wow.
first in the yeah we're already
That's
so far, it's so far past where any of us thought it would be at this point 1 month in.
that's
So
crazy.
it's tough to really have specific goals. I think one of the biggest things from my perspective that I want to do is I want to make sure that we're providing creators with an opportunity to succeed. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's providing those creators the success that they may have not have been able to obtain on their own. I know personally for me, obviously both being with the company and then working with the company as well on my content, that I have a team behind me this year that is so much more stronger and powerful than any other year. You know, I have people helping me edit, create thumbnails, and then I have other people who are just helping with like a general direction of my channel and what content I'm putting out and how I'm titling things, how I'm approaching things. And to have that kind of people in your circle is big for me personally. So to be able to provide that with as many other people as possible to help them achieve that level of success, I mean that's the end goal for me. Absolutely.
And again, you bring up something that I was just about to ask next, man. Um, one is, we all pick and choose people to work with, and it's really important to have those guys in your corner. Like, what are some things that you personally Like, do you have a process on who you work with? Have you learned about, like who, basically just walk me through like how you chose to work with the people that you do, and maybe some things that someone can pick up on of someone that, may not be the right person to work with.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me in finding people who work with my content and help me on that front is one, it has to be somebody that I trust and I know and I have
Hmm.
like a relationship with, because that way, like if there's an edit and JoJo edits it and it's messed up, I can hit up JoJo and be like, hey, this was bad. Like it needed to be different in this way, and he understands where I'm coming from with that, and we have like that level of relationship where we can have those tougher conversations, no problem about it.
Hmm.
Right? So that's huge. Having that trust and having that kind of connection with each other is big and not something that's easy to find at all.
Hmm.
And then two, and this is probably the biggest thing for me, it's not only somebody who can create good content and assist me in that, but somebody who just believes in my content as like an outsider. You know what I mean? If Jojo and Tater were not helping me out with anything and working with me at all, they would still love and enjoy everything I did content wise,
Hmm.
because they just believe in me as a creator, and that is huge, especially for me. Always been a weird thing in my life where I don't necessarily feel like, I don't want to use the word underrated, but I always just assume that a lot of times, not necessarily that people don't like me, but I always just kind of like assume, not necessarily the worst, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like I always just kind of assume that there's people aren't like fully bought into me or like fully understanding of like the value
Hmm.
that I have
Hmm.
as a person. And so finding those people who do understand that and do get that and do just get me as a person and as a creator, is there's no limit to the amount of value that that provides past any sort of, just editing or putting out content. Just being able to like sit down and have those conversations as well outside of all
Hmm.
that is a massive bonus to me.
Scan, do you have anything to add to that?
I think I noticed a little bit of a crossover. Surprise. One thing that Ants mentioned was like understanding like the value you could bring, and like with Dugout, as you guys know who have interacted with Dugout, there's a vision to all of this. And kind of I'm the same way with myself and everything that I work on. Like there's a vision, there's a vision of like what you're gonna be, what you're striving to be, what you're shooting for. With Dugout, with me as a person, and all of us have that sense of ourselves. So you need to
Hmm.
find someone who you can explain those to. They understand what that vision is and they are bought into it. They believe you can
Hmm.
get to that, and they want to do everything they can to help you get to that point. There's a big buy-in thing a lot of times
Yep.
with this type of thing, because someone could be like, oh, I need an editor, blah blah blah, and they don't have any goals for anything, blah blah blah. If you have someone who has a vision, they have a goal in mind, they have something they're shooting for, then you got to look for people who are on board with that. So like a lot of us have our own vision of things. We have our goals that we strive for. So finding someone who's willing to like be a part of that is really big. That's like I would say is number one to me, because there is a lot of stuff involved. Some people want their own good and all that. There's a lot of moving pieces when you're say an editor looking for work and all that. But there's a vision that we're all coming together for a common goal at the end of the day. We all
Hmm.
grow, we all improve together. So you kind of have to be bought into that. My number two thing is just striving to be better. I understand not everyone's perfect. Not everyone makes mistakes. We're not all experts at something when we first get involved with it. So understanding that you're passionate about something, like someone could be passionate about something, but they're always striving to be better. They're willing to take critique. They understand that
Hmm.
I'm not perfect, so tell me how I can get better. And
Hmm.
everyone I have worked with a lot of this stuff has always been striving to get better. And that's been one of my favorite things, because you always get afraid to critique people, kind of like how you touched on. Like you need to have
Yep.
that trust, but it's even
Hmm.
more than a trust thing sometimes. It's understanding that this person's trying to get better. So when I'm giving them critique, they understand it's from an avenue of I want them to improve for their own sake, but also for our own sake. And they're willing to take that critique to better themselves. which a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there can't take critique there. They kind of just, they assume they're good at something, and they have that trust, like, oh, I'm going to make the best stuff for you. But there's a two-sided relationship. We try to better each other. And that's a big thing, understanding we're not all perfect, that we all try to get better.
Yeah,
Well,
I think what Scan said about buying in, that's the big. You got somebody who bought in, is just such a difference maker versus somebody who's not. Such a huge difference. And then of course somebody who understands like how you communicate. We all communicate differently. So somebody who just gets that, huge. So massive.
I think it all just goes on the first thing you touched on, Ants, is honesty.
Yep.
And genuinely wanting the best out of someone, not for like so that they'll, potentially do a video with you later down the road. Or, we've all come across people like that. And no one's going to single anyone out.
It's easy to notice when it happens,
Yeah, exactly.
You recognize it.
Yeah. And man, I mean, I feel like we could talk about this topic forever.
We could.
But with this show, the big thing about this show is that I want to be able to do this on a consistent basis and bring on as many guests as possible. And that means that, maybe these episodes don't go super long, but they have a lot of great informative content in here for all you guys. So for those that are just wondering the vision and all that, like the goal, I want to bring up a bunch of great topics. I want to touch on them, but I also want to bring Ants and Scan back again so we can go deeper and deeper into these conversations, later down the road. So with all that being said, I greatly appreciate you guys for all your input for all that. But I think this next topic is something that, I can't wait to talk about, and I've been waiting to talk about it for the whole episode. But man, we got the MLB The Show 22 tech test, and for the first time, we can actually talk about it. In other years, if you guys did not know, the tech test was basically like Voldemort in Harry Potter. You could not talk about it, and if you did, terrible things would happen to you. Is basically the gist of it. People's channels would be taken down if you streamed it, if you made YouTube videos for any of that. Not this year. Not this year at all. In fact, it's encouraged that people are streaming it and people are talking about it. And what are your guys' thoughts? I just want to, just based on that, we can get further into it, but just on that alone, what does that mean? Being able to talk about this tech test, this version of MLB The Show 22 before the actual game comes out, and being able to talk about it openly without any fear of getting your channel taken down or anything like that. I'll start with you, Scan.
I think in general, just for someone who I feel like I have a good understanding of both sides of it, from the creator side and say developer side, I think it eases the communication on feedback. Because one thing with the tech test is there's a lot of different ways to communicate feedback. They had their forums and they had their surveys, and they still do those. But when there's something blatant that's easy to capture in video while you happen to run into it, first of all, it encourages a lot of us to play it more because we can share that content. So we have more things to test and share, but also it eases that communication of, hey, there's a problem. Here's a video. Here's a screenshot of me interacting with the problem and explaining the problem all in the same sense. Like there was a play the other day, Ansel, you remember when we were playing a co-op game and the outfielders were all the outfielder was running in, and then Tim Anderson was running from shortstop, running towards the outfield, all the way in left center, and none of them catch it. The ball gets past them. The runners are going chaotic. I'm like, this needs to be a clip, not only because it's funny, but it actually kind of shows like some of the things that could maybe be improved upon. Like some people just like, I don't know what the heck happened there, but something happened. And then the base running thing that happened. It was like communicating those things easily is only a win-win for the both sides, because now we can provide more context and information, and they don't have to be, we don't have to be afraid to actually do so.
Yeah, I think it provides, I would assume, a ton more feedback overall. I mean, I know I definitely played the tech test more because I could share content with it. Otherwise, it kind of comes to the point of like, okay, if I have to play this offline, I'm probably going to limit the amount of time I am going to play it because I have to be able to focus on creating content and doing this, that, or the other.
Mhm.
So I think one, it provides a lot more people playing because anybody can play it. And two, a lot more creators playing it for a longer period of time because they have the ability to share that. And so it encourages them to do so more, which I think is great overall. Definitely the more feedback we can give, the more people that are playing, I'm sure the more that they can pick up on bugs. I literally had a bug today when I was just playing earlier where it was a co-op game and it was second and third with one out. Hit a ground ball to second base. Runner gets thrown out at first. Out gets called,
Mhm.
so there's now two outs, but then the bases are loaded, and I walked in a run. So they
Oh,
counted the
no.
out counted, but the runner stayed on first after the play.
What?
And then the next batter walked in a run. It was very confusing because it was the top of the first
Oh,
and there
boy.
were two outs and the bases loaded, but the number 5 batter was up. And it was it made zero sense. Made zero sense at all. So now I got that clipped, and I
Mhm.
definitely would have not have had that ability to do
Yep.
that had I been just playing offline. I probably would have never even ran into that super rare occurrence of whatever triggered that.
Has it eased the stress for you guys a little bit, knowing that you see the game, even if it's just a tech test, but now you have something a little different to make your videos about or streams about? Is that helping you guys ease the stress of this quote unquote off time?
I think that's been a part. I mean, the big thing I would
I
say
know
that
it's
the
only for
stress
a
of
week, but
Right.
yeah, I would say like the thing that was the stress of the off time is that you were worried about when things were happening. When we're gonna hear
Yeah.
updates on the game. When you're gonna like we don't have any idea what's going on behind the scenes. So you don't know they probably are working on it, but you don't know they're working on it. So, as
Mhm.
people who are trying to make content on like the first couple months, weeks of the game, then you build up a little bit of stress because you're like, okay, like, where's the news in the game? Where is this? Are we going to get the release on time? Blah, blah, blah. And as someone who's involved in a lot, you start to overthink things. So seeing the tech test, just seeing that eases some of that because you see the product that's out. It's more than like, obviously, there are a lot of similarities to the last game, but there's a lot of new things that I think really make it add up. I mean, obviously, there are bugs, but it makes me excited for the new things that we're going to be hearing about.
Yeah. I think the
Uh-huh.
content directly around the tech test doesn't really impact anything, but just having something to get people talking about the game again, possibly starting to come back to the game some is great. And then personally for me, obviously there's been some significant bugs in the tech test, but it's a tech test, whatever, it's going to happen. But like
Mhm.
outside of those bugs, just like the general gameplay and how it's played for me has been very, very smooth so far. Much, much more smooth and polished experience than 21 that I found between like new animations, some of the new throw meters. Anchoring's
Mhm.
literally already a crutch for me. I was playing the
Really?
tech test and then tried to go back and hit on 21 and literally couldn't hit for like 7 innings because I couldn't anchor my PCI. I'm already tired of having to play a month of not anchoring anchoring my PCI. I already love it. But I think the experience being polished overall was been made me feel in a better place. It's like, okay, if this can play like that and the servers can hold up so far in the tech
Mhm.
test, they've held up outside of co-op. Um, if the servers can hold up and we have like a very polished and like well-rounded game, even if we don't have some crazy gameplay changes that I think a lot of people would like to see, and there's definitely some things to change there. We just get a game that's very polished and very well put together. 22 can be a very, very, very successful game.
Mhm. And man, I'm hesitant to bring this up because we don't know the final product, but we talk about having things put together and then we see some Switch gameplay and it worries me a little
The
bit.
Switch looks rough. It
It
looks
does.
rough.
But my real thing is, are people just going to get past it even if it's rough? I'm not saying it's going to be rough.
Right.
From what we've seen, it has been rough. But do you think that people that haven't really had a baseball game to play on the Switch other than, RBI baseball, which is not the greatest experience in its own, do you think there's going to be more of leeway, if the experience isn't 100% what we kind of expected it to be?
I think that'll be a big difference between people who have the game on PS5 and use like the Switch as like a secondary console, and like the difference in performance there versus people who probably possibly never played a baseball game and are playing it for the first time on the Switch. I think there's probably a massive difference in those two. I would think probably for people playing it first time on the Switch, as long as it's like in a playable sense and passable, it'll probably be an enjoyable experience at like the
Yeah.
super core level for those people.
Yeah, and we saw that for Xbox last year too, right? Like, we are really, like skeptical about things, and we overanalyze everything. But it seemed like the people that were playing on the Xbox, they just had, the greatest time ever because it was the first time they could play MLB The Show and
Right.
however long, or never before. But so that's all I have on that. And the last part about this is we got introduced a new mode, co-op mode. And man, I think a lot of people are absolutely enjoying it. I've seen multiple tweets that it's the most fun that they've possibly ever had playing MLB The Show. Scan, what's been your experience of hopping on with someone that you know, or maybe you don't know, maybe some random, and just playing, a 2v2 or a 3v3? It's something that we've talked about before, but what's the difference when you're actually seeing it for yourself and playing it yourself?
I think the core of co-op that makes it fun is that it just adds more elements to MLB The Show than it would before. Like, you have the team element, you have teammates. I was talking about it earlier with someone I recorded a video with earlier, and they were like, "Oh, I struck out, and I got like a first pitch out, and it felt like the walk of shame going back to the dugout."
Yeah.
And like that wouldn't happen in
Double
DD.
play with Jared Walsh yesterday after talking trash about your not having good hitters.
Okay. Listen. That's unnecessary and out of pocket to bring up. Out of pocket, ants. But yeah, like that's an element that is that makes it like really fun. Like, you have the teammate element, and like even in the casual setting, there's no competitiveness to it at its core. But it's fun to go out there and play with people and have those elements. It makes the game more fun, a different element now. The gameplay is fun, and all that, and the content in the game is great. But now that you have a cooperative mode, it expands the playability even more, because if you're not feeling like trying hard for something or grinding out content, just get together with some dudes and play a game. And it's just something else you could do, and it's fresh and fun. I mean, it's cool. It would be cool to see more stuff down the road, but at its core, that's the big thing I love. I just love all the new feel of it. It feels different in normal MLB The Show and DD and all that, and it's very refreshing to play.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're actually part of a baseball team, and that's something that we just never really experienced because we've done everything on our own. We never had to rely on someone to get a hit down when we need to, and and then if they do, I feel like it's almost even more of an experience in itself because you guys both came together to score that run to win the game. I don't know, it's just even at its core, it just feels like there's so much that that we have in store for that mode, and something that I'm really excited for. And I think that ultimately it's going to change a lot of the content that we see moving forward in MLB The Show, and especially this time next year, I feel like we're going to be all in on the co-op, when all the DD content is dried up and there's nothing else to do. We'll be just sweating out, co-op, getting tournaments, leagues together. Like, it makes me smile just thinking about what this next year will be like.
Yeah, that's my biggest hope for it, is that when it gets released, it's able to be functional. I think right now it's a little frustrating, like trying to get in the games. I mean, me, Gomes, and Scan, we took like 2 hours to play like 2 games the other night, which was a little frustrating.
It is.
Obviously, but between now and release, that's obviously a lot of changes happening on that front. So we can't judge how that's going to be. But assuming that's not the case and the game is playing well, I'm hoping that they see any success with co-op and invest into that to expand it versus it becoming kind of like a one-off miniature kind of side mode, kind of like what custom leagues is now. Like when custom leagues were released in 20, everybody was super excited. There was a ton of potential with it. And then we didn't really see any changes from that from last year into this year. And it almost kind of seems like custom leagues are maybe just kind of be a little side mode that's been pushed to the side. It'll be in there, but it's not going to be adjusted and changed. I think there's a lot of potential with co-op, and I've had a ton of fun with it so far. So I'm hoping that if it's something that is successful on release, that it's something that they continue to invest into to improve and advance. Because the potential with it, I mean, dude, there's so many awesome things that
Mhm.
could be done with a mode like that.
Yeah, and I think when you touch on custom leagues, the real issue is getting everyone together to play the
Oh,
game.
for sure.
Yeah, that's
For
the
sure.
real
That's-
issue of
that's the
There's a lot
number
customs.
more
one-
issues
there-
to that, right?
There's really not too much wrong with the custom league mode itself. It's more of just getting people together to play their games, and that can
Absolutely.
be solved. I mean, in co-op, you don't have to really worry about that, So, I mean,
Absolutely.
but yeah, very exciting.
Hopefully we get some DD rewards. I'm
Yep.
hoping that they have some type of rewards behind that to incentivize, even if it's just like cosmetics.
Mhm.
I know me and Scan have talked about like a Rocket League structure before. Like a 2v2 and 3v3 could be like a perfect way to implement some sort of like ranking structure where as you rank up, you get cosmetic rewards. Like there's no
Mhm.
way that they couldn't in-house design some like sick DD jerseys that aren't
Mhm.
representative of like an old historic major league team or like a retro jersey, but like a
Mhm.
brand new jersey that they just design and make it look sick. And if you get to some certain ranking or get so many wins, like you get this awesome, cool jersey that you can rock out on the field with. Even the little things like that, something to give some sort of incentive. Otherwise, I do think it could be for the casual players something that kind of gets put to the side as they focus on other things.
Mhm. No, absolutely, and I think that'll be a big motivator for people to play the game. Is we gotta have some sort of reward for it, even if
Yeah.
it's super small,
Mhm.
and that would be perfect. But yeah, that's about all the MLB The Show 22 news I want to cover today. The last thing that I want to touch on is actually surrounding MLB The Show 21, and it's something that we touched on earlier, but in about 24 hours, we'll all be together in Vegas, the penthouse of the Palms Casino and Hotel. And what are you guys' thoughts on all of this? What are your thoughts on the DCCL? I know Scan kind of really last week or this week you kind of covered on that all that, so I don't want you guys to go super in deep, but like, what's just kind of a few things that you think of when you tomorrow we'll all be flying out and doing this all together. What are your guys' thoughts before heading out tomorrow?
I'm
Uh,
pumped. I'm
yeah.
so excited to be able to see everybody. That's going to be such a that that first night when we're all there and everybody lands down and it all kind of like sets in. It's like, yo, this is real right now. We're all who would have thought that all of us
Mhm.
would be getting together at the freaking 59th floor of a hotel in Vegas.
Yeah, that's one thing I think all of us can relate to. It's like seeing each other like that is so nuts to think about. I think the thing for me is just the accumulation of time behind it.
Yep.
There's
Mhm.
so much time and planning behind the trip, the DCCL, Dugout Creative, all of these things. And not that this is the end all, but this is something that really shows how much time and commitment went into all of this. Because it's not just something for us, but something that everyone sees. And it gives people a glimpse into what we're about, what this whole thing is about, and the amount of time that got put into it. And that I think is my favorite part. Because, we've been working a lot of stuff behind the scenes with Dugout. We've been doing a lot with the DCCL all the time. There's a lot going on with this. It's cool to see us be able to put it on like a spotlight. No pun intended, since we have that as a scene on the broadcast. But like we want to we're putting it out there for everyone to see. And it's gonna be put out there, and it's a great time for everyone to go out and witness all that stuff go down. It's gonna be very fun. And I'm as excited since I was in Tampa. Now we get to see everyone down there, which is gonna be really fun.
I can't wait to see with all of us there together and how close the group of us have gotten over the last 6, 7, 8 months since really people kind of started coming on board. I mean, we all blow up each other's phones all day, every day. So with how close we've come, getting everybody there and seeing the content that'll be made from that is going to be incredible. I obviously not to spoil anything we're doing, but like the content that we're going to make, even outside of just like the playoffs and just being there and all of us together, just like hanging out and chatting is going to be absolutely incredible. I can't wait to see what comes of that.
Yeah, if you guys thought we're just there to play a few MLB The Show games, it's maybe a little bit of a teaser, but nope, definitely not. We're gonna do a lot of fun things together, and it's the thing that I love about it is it's genuine. You know, I don't want to speak on anyone else, but like sometimes when these collaboration videos happen, sometimes you can sense that it's not like a true bond. Maybe they don't really get along with each other. You're just doing it for the video, but this is gonna be absolutely genuine. We're all great friends, and we've formed this bond, and it's only going to grow stronger. So this
Yeah.
is the thing that I love about content creating, and I can't wait for the stories that we'll be talking about on our next show. So
Yeah, there's a lot that we're doing, and just to speak on it, yes, we're gonna speak about some of the stuff we're gonna be doing there right now.
Okay.
So first of all, we're obviously gonna be vlogging the entire thing. I'll be vlogging things myself. We'll all be having cameras in our own phones. Okay, ants. We're gonna also have cameras on us the entire time. So there's be a lot of vlog footage that we're gonna accumulate to a big vlog. There's gonna be we're also gonna be hitting real life baseball. So we're gonna be going to some cages and getting some real swings in.
Swung a bat in so long.
It's gonna be electric. We're gonna be playing a lot of blitzball. We'll be getting together for a round table, so we'll all hop together in person and chat stuff together. We'll be doing a lot of fun stuff alongside the DCCL stuff, including the punishment for whoever gets last place in the DCCL, which me knowing what it is and they don't, I'm very excited for you guys to see.
Yeah.
And also just in general, there's been so much cool stuff with that. It'll be, even though the newest member of the crew, Major Mangoes, won't actually be there. He's the only one that won't because he's an Australian. There's a lot of stuff with that. He will be there virtually with us for the DCCL. And all of us being together for this is so exciting. And the content that we're going to be making out of it for you guys, like, you guys are going to love it. If you love the creators involved with this, you're gonna love the content that we're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that'll be it for our first show, man. So episode 1 in the books with 2 of my best friends, and couldn't have gone any better. So thank you guys both for hopping on. And if you guys are listening, make sure you guys subscribe, make sure you guys following along. We're gonna aim to get this done at a very regular basis. So we're gonna be bringing on guests from all over the baseball community, and I look forward to see where this journey goes. But thank you guys, man. Greatly appreciate it.
It was a blast. There's a lot more in store with this podcast that you all should be excited for. It'll be blasted out there in case you missed some of it today, and it's gonna be very exciting to see where this goes.
Yep. And so thank you guys all for tuning in, man, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right.